You've seen this dozens, maybe hundreds of times. You come home, and there they are. Just like always. Not in the middle of the room, not on the sofa, not near the food bowl. Right there, at the door. Sometimes on the exact tile where you left them. Sometimes pressed against the baseboard as if they've been stuck there for hours. As if they never moved at all. You think it's sweet, maybe a little obsessive. You tell people your dog waits by the door, they say, "Aw, how cute," and the conversation usually ends there. But researchers who have spent their careers studying canine cognition have a very different reaction. Because the spot your dog chooses while waiting for you is not random. The behavior of waiting by the door is not the simple act of loyalty you think it is. It is a window into one of the most complex cognitive and emotional systems that exists in the domestic dog brain. And what it reveals about how your dog experiences time, space, and your absence is far stranger and more profound than most owners ever realize. Let's start with the spot itself. In 2011, researchers at the University of Vienna conducted a series of experiments examining how dogs position themselves spatially when left alone. They weren't studying distress, they were studying location. Where does the dog go, and why? They placed dogs in unfamiliar environments and familiar home settings, positioned the owner's belongings in different locations, and tracked which spot the dog chose to rest in. The finding was consistent. Dogs didn't choose the center of the room. They didn't choose the warmest corner. They chose the location where the highest concentration of the owner's scent intersected with a direct line of sight to the primary departure point. In plain terms, they position themselves at the intersection of where your scent is strongest and where they can first see the door open. This is not instinct in the vague, hand-wavy sense. This is a calculated spatial strategy. Your dog has mapped your home. They know which door you leave from. They know the sound the handle makes before it turns. They know where your scent pools, on the shoe rack, the jacket hanging on the wall, the mat you've stood on every morning for 3 years. And when you leave, they choose the position that keeps them closest to all of that. Not because they don't understand you're gone, because they understand you're gone, and they are actively managing that information. This is where the science becomes uncomfortable in the best possible way. For decades, the dominant assumption in animal cognition was that dogs lived in a kind of eternal present. No meaningful past, no real anticipation of the future. Just stimulus and response. You leave, they react. You return, they react. Nothing in between amounts to much. Alexandra Horowitz at Barnard College dedicated years to dismantling that assumption. Research on episodic-like memory in dogs, conducted from the 2010s onward, findings showing the ability to recall not just what happened, but something resembling when and where it happened, changed how researchers thought about the inner life of waiting. Dogs aren't simply reacting to your absence in the moment. While you're gone, they continue holding on to you in a neurologically meaningful way. And that holding happens right in front of the door. Neuroscientists studying the canine olfactory system have documented something extraordinary. A dog's nose contains approximately 300 million scent receptors, compared to the 6 million in a human nose. But more important than the raw number is what the brain does with that information. The olfactory bulb in a dog's brain is roughly 40 times larger than in humans, proportional to total brain size. For a dog, scent is not just information. It is immersive, dimensional. It may carry temporal qualities that we as humans have no equivalent sensory experience for. When your dog presses their nose against the door you just closed, they are reading something. Your scent trail tells them the direction you moved. The concentration tells them roughly how recently you passed through. In a 2017 study published in the journal Learning and Behavior, dogs were able to distinguish between scent samples left 5 minutes ago and those left 2 hours ago, adjusting their searching behavior accordingly. Your dog sitting at the door is not simply waiting in a passive sense. They are monitoring evidence of you. Scent decays in a predictable gradient. There is emerging research suggesting that dogs may use this decay as a crude but functional time-tracking mechanism. They may not know that 4 hours have passed, but their nose is telling them something about how long you've been gone in ways we are only beginning to understand. Now let's get to something nobody tells you about the dog that waits by the door. And it matters. Not all of them are waiting for the same reason. Stanley Korn at Columbia University spent years correlating dog behavior with attachment typology. He used frameworks adapted from human infant research that later influenced the Budapest studies on dog-owner bonding. And his work points toward a distinction that is invisible from the outside but neurologically distinct. Some dogs wait at the door from what researchers call secure attachment. They are not distressed. Their cortisol is not elevated. Their breathing is steady. Through hundreds of repetitions, they have learned the door closing and the door opening are the same event, just in a different order. They wait the way you might wait for a friend at a coffee shop, calm anticipation. The outcome is not in doubt. Other dogs wait at the door from a place of anxious vigilance, heart rate elevated, panting between periods of stillness, eyes locked on the door handle. Not impatience, but hypervigilance. These dogs are not calm, they are activated. They are running a threat assessment on every sound from the hallway, every footstep from above, every car engine that resembles the one they have memorized as yours. From your perspective, coming home to either dog looks almost identical. Dog at the door, wagging tail, happy to see you. To truly understand what those last 4 hours actually looked like, you would have to watch the footage recorded while you were away. In 2020, researchers at the University of Helsinki conducted a study examining the facial expressions of dogs before and after separation from their owner. Using an objective facial action coding system adapted from human facts research, they found measurable differences in brow position, ear carriage, and orbital tension between dogs with secure versus anxious attachment styles, even during periods of stillness. Even at rest, the anxious dog's face carries what the researchers described as expressions consistent with negative valence states. The dog looks calm. It isn't. There is a broader behavioral pattern worth understanding here, and it connects to something most owners experience but cannot quite explain. You pull up outside your house. You haven't opened the car door yet, and something already feels different about the air. You walk in, and your dog is right there, a little closer to the door than usual, already wound up in a way that makes you feel slightly observed. You were not imagining it. In one of the most cited studies in canine behavior research, scientist Rupert Sheldrake, whose work has been controversial but widely replicated, documented dogs beginning to orient toward the front door at statistically significant rates in the minutes before their owner arrived home. It was not triggered by car sounds. The dog was tested in a home where the owner took different routes, used different vehicles, and arrived at unpredictable times. And still, the behavior began to shift ahead of any conventional explanation. The mechanism is still debated, but the behavior is documented. Something shifts in your dog's state, before you are visible, before they can hear you, sometimes before they could even smell you, and it begins to orient them back toward the door. What they have built over months and years of living together is a predictive model of you. Your rhythms, your patterns, the way the afternoon light changes at the times you are usually close to home, the particular quality of silence on the stairs just before your kind of footstep. They are not reading your mind. They are reading signal gradients so subtle that we do not yet have instruments sensitive enough to measure what they are responding to. Your dog at the door is not simply waiting. They are actively predicting you back into existence. And here is why that matters in a practical sense. The dogs that develop the healthiest relationship with your absence, the ones that rest during the day, that don't fall into cycles of distress, that greet you from a place of calm rather than relief, are the ones who have been given the most consistent evidence that the door will open again. Not told, not trained with commands, given evidence. The same sequence, repeated again and again. You leave, you come back. You leave, you come back. Until the prediction system no longer just hopes you are coming back, it expects it. What disrupts that system is not the length of your absence. It is the unpredictability of your returns. Dogs adapt to long hours more reliably than most owners expect, as long as the schedule is consistent. The Tuesday you came home 3 hours early, the Thursday you didn't return until midnight, the Saturday that broke every pattern they had built. Those are the things that erode trust. Not the hours, the uncertainty. A 2018 study on working dogs and their handlers found that the most stable attachment behaviors, including calm door waiting as opposed to anxious door fixation, were most strongly correlated with schedule consistency, even above daily contact time. A dog who sees their owner for a predictable 2 hours a day can be more secure than a dog with an unpredictable owner who is home all weekend. What your dog needs is not more of you. It is a reliable version of you. The spot by the door is the physical manifestation of that need. It is where the predictions live, where the scent evidence accumulates, where the waiting has a direction. Not exactly sad, but not nothing either. This is your dog's way of keeping track of you when you cannot be tracked. It is how they stay close to you using the only tools available to a species that cannot send a message, cannot check a clock, cannot know for certain when the handle will turn again. And every time you walk back through that door and they are right there, exactly where you left them, they are adding one more data point to the most important prediction their nervous system makes every single day: that you come back. If you've noticed your dog always choosing the same spot, subscribe and tell me about it in the comments. And if you want to understand why your dog sometimes seems to know things before they should, the science of canine anticipation goes far deeper than almost anyone realizes. That's next.